We're here today, folks, to talk about what checkers, a ladder, and the Supreme Court have in common. You might have heard that there was a big case denied today by the Supreme Court. And there's a whole long history before that denial. So we want to dive in on this. And a lot of people know this as the corner crossing case, or the case of the Missouri 4, or in some cases, the Iron Bar Holdings case. But what happened is 4 hunters from Missouri drew an elk tag and went out to Elk Mountain, Wyoming. And they wanted to hunt the public land, the land that belongs to all of us, in an area where, because of our history, and specifically the history of the railroads, when land was given away as private land in checkers to the railroad and remained as public land, usually BLM land, in the alternating squares, they wanted to be able to hunt just the public land. Well, the owner of that land, of the adjacent land, I should say, the private land in this area, was trying to keep all of the hunters off of public land. And he had signs up, and when they hunted the public land, and they were very careful to not impede on his property whatsoever. These were, hunters who respect private property rights. They literally brought a ladder with them so that they could cross at the exact corner between public and never set foot in any way on the private land. Despite that, the owner of that land in this case called the sheriff, who charged them with trespassing. They were acquitted of that trespassing charge because of the fundamental situation here where they were moving from public to public. At that point, Iron Bar Holdings and its owner decided to bring a civil case against these 4 hunters. A lot of people know these guys as the Missouri 4. That civil case sought damages for impeding on his air rights. Now, I'm not sure what air rights are, but we're not going to litigate that today, but he was seeking $7 million for them moving from one piece of land that belongs to all of us to another piece of land that belongs to all of us. So this started a history of civil cases against these 4 hunters moving through the federal court system. And it moved from the District Court of Wyoming into the Court of Appeals in the 10th Circuit, and that's going to be real important, so stick a pin in that for a minute. And then the 10th Circuit wrote a very extensive ruling saying these guys were in the right. Corner crossing in the 10th Circuit is not a crime, and it's not a crime because of something called the Unlawful Enclosures Act, which goes back many, many years, but when these lands were being developed, there were a lot of efforts to try and box out one neighbor or the other. So where there were fences and someone had a grazing lease on one quarter and a grazing lease on the adjacent land, sometimes the other landowner would try to impede their access from one piece of what they had property rights to another. The Unlawful Enclosures Act was really created to sort of settle those wars and those conflicts that existed in checkerboard landscapes across the Intermountain West. The ruling came out in their favor, said these guys are absolutely in the right, and at least with respect to the states that are in the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals, that includes New Mexico, it includes Oklahoma, Kansas, Colorado, Wyoming, and Utah. And obviously, New Mexico, Colorado, Wyoming, and Utah have a lot of BLM lands and a lot of checkerboard where this may become relevant. And where in the past, people were afraid to go from one corner to the other because they just didn't know where they would be prosecuted for trespassing and where they were in the clear. So this decision means corner crossing is not a crime in the 10th Circuit. That was appealed by the landowner all the way up to the Supreme Court. And today, the Supreme Court denied that appeal. So effectively, at least in the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals, this is a decided matter of law. It means that in counties in the state of New Mexico and the other ones that are in the 10th Circuit, moving from public to public is your legal right.